guys, we're back with another video, and as for the title, you've already seen it. This is what if Naruto was born with brayon mood. Part 1. Nine Tails attack. The Nine Tails stood with his claw through Minato Namikaze and his wife Kushina Uzumaki. Minato then looked at the Nine Tails. 10 trigram seal, he yelled out, as then the Reaper began to fly out of his body. Yes, y'all heard me correctly. 10 trigram seal. As the Reaper came, then it began to pull the Nine Tails. As the Nine Tails began to absorb its chakra, as the Reaper tried to stop it. But he realized he couldn't, so he quickly did the seal up. And you wanted to be placed inside of the boy's world? Yes, Minato said. As then the Reaper took all of their chakra and placed it within Naruto. Then he took their souls and left. Then he took Minato's soul and left. As their bodies dropped to the ground, they were now dead. Gone, not alive anymore. As Naruto's body then began to glow as he was taking all of the Reaper's chakra from Kurama. As the Reaper's chakra mixed with his body, he looked the same, but his chakra levels had almost quadrupled. They were at the maximum. His high Kage level, no, low Jonin level chakra was now high Kage level and was reaching even beyond. As then his body began to glow as an explosive amount of chakra began to blow out of his body. As because of the fact that he had absorbed the Reaper's chakra, he had now became immortal. The only way for him to die, truly is for the entire reality to be erased, which was something that only I can do, as in me, Deontay the God, no one else. So yeah, he's pretty much immortal as hell. That paired with his brayon mode. Oh, let's get to his appearance. Because of the Reaper's chakra, his appearance was the same. Nothing out of the usual. But the Nine Tails' knowledge about ninjutsu and other things of the sort had flew into Naruto's mind. So, also how to walk and his abilities. Faggot ass nigga, what you want? We now skip 4 years later. Hokage's office. The Hokage walked in to check on Naruto to see him drawing a formation. As his eyes opened widely, that was a sealing array, which was most commonly used within storage seals. but it was advanced. It was greatly advanced. And it seemed like Naruto was only beginning on this seal. Naruto, what are you doing? The third Hokage said once looking at Naruto. Oh, I'm just creating a storage seal. What kind? Oh, mm-mm. A storage seal which is called, well, which is used to store massive amounts of chakra. Why? Because I noticed, every time that I wake up, chakra is pulsing through my. Naruto says, as then he says, through my pee area, he said, once looking towards the third Hokage. And it's a lot. And my pee gets really hard, so I'm trying to stop that. He said, once looking towards the third Hokage, as the third Hokage began to chuckle slightly. What's funny, old man? Naruto screamed. No, not screamed. He ain't Sakura. He was like, Naruto said. Oh, he said, clearly aggravated. As the third Hokage said, oh, it's nothing. It happens to the best of us. But can this work for long periods of time? The third Hokage said, looking towards Naruto. Yeah, it's meant to work forever. Until you take it off. It's also reusable. As the third Hokage then had a flashback to an earlier meeting. He was sitting down looking at his secretary, who was talking to him. No, what her name was? Tatsumi Inuzaka, who was telling him about her problem with her son. And it was kind of, he found it kind of this like weird because this lady was a lot younger than him. So he was just having an awkward boner, basically. Naruto, can you make 2 of those? Yeah, sure, Gigi. Naruto said, as then he began to write faster, but with more precision. As then he threw Gigi one, which he had, as Gigi caught it. Then he said, how do I apply this? Just think about the place where you want it to be and place it on your forehead. And it just appear. Once you want it to come off, you just charge chakra into the area. Naruto said, looking towards the third Hokage, the third Hokage then began to smirk as he slapped it on his forehead. As the seal began to retract into his forehead, the third Hokage then said, excuse me, as he walked into the near bathroom. And moments later, he came out with a smirk on his face. He had kept an Ichi Ichi Paradise book on him all the time, So he began to read it a bit and noticed he wasn't instantly charged. He wasn't instantly charged. Nor, no matter how long he read, he wasn't charged, even though he was aroused. Perfect, the third Hokage said. As then, Naruto continued. We then skip to when Naruto's 5. I'm sorry, Naruto, but you're gonna have to live on your own. I've already rented out an apartment for you. It's paid off. No, I've already bought a small home for you. The property is completely paid off. I will be giving you a weekly allowance from your parents' share. No, a weekly allowance from your parents' bank account. The Hokage let it slip. As then Naruto looked towards him. Wait, who are my parents? He yelled, looking towards the third Hokage with a spark on his eye. As then the third Hokage said, you'll know once you're old enough to know the truth, and once you're strong enough to know. Yeah. Basically, yeah, that was basically how it was. Naruto had arrived at the house. It was fairly small. It had a backyard, which was clearly meant for training. And it was fairly good. Nothing too special about it. Well, nothing at all. Except inside of the house was like walking into the future. The whole entire area was so shiny that Naruto almost got blind once he walked in immediately. But after his eyes had gotten used to the immense amount of light, it was stunning. The place was almost made out of marble, and it was as modern as modern. So like it was pretty much grand. As it was full of seals that were clearly made by an amateur sealer. But at this point in time, Naruto was easily considered a seal master who surpassed Jiraiya of the Signing and even his father in terms of seals. So he quickly fixed up the house towards better. He placed a blood seal around the home to where the only way for you to get in is for you to have one of his special custom bracelets, which was filled. We had a shell on it, marble on it, which was filled with his blood, or for you just to be him, which he knew would stop intruders such as bandits or villagers outside of the house. Naruto walked to get his groceries, as he was then stopped by a drunken villager. What are you doing over there, demon? Stay off of my street, he said, as he got up and began to stumble towards Naruto. You know what I do with demons like you? I rape them. I take their little buttholes and I stick everything I got in there, he said, looking towards Naruto, as he then smirked. Ooh, and you look like a cute little boy, don't you? He said, looking towards Naruto. As then Naruto stopped him, his icy blue eyes pierced into the man's soul as he felt as almost as if the Reaper stood in front of him. He began to bag back as Naruto began to unknowingly unleash killer intent. As his crystal eyes struck fear into the man felt his soul almost as if it was being ripped out of his body. Naruto's body began to glow slightly, and his eyes began to get a slit. As the man began to fall to his knees under Naruto's glare, around Naruto was slightly visible things like, a slightly visible cloak now around Naruto, which was basically Baryon mode, but it was kind of transparent, you know, since the Reaper was basically suppressing the actual view, but this was full power Baryon mode, but he was immortal. And so basically the Kyuubi was also absorbed a bit of his chakra, making him pretty much immortal. Plus Naruto, who was pretty much immortal. So yeah, as his cold gaze viewed the man, as the man was on the ground, he began to breathe heavily as he grabbed onto his throat, inching closer towards the light. The man then began to speak. "Martha," he said, "I thought you died in the Kyuubi attack." As he reached his hand out towards the sky, as the man began to reach his hand upwards into the sky, as he looked at this figure, then in an instant that was ripped away from him, as he looked towards Naruto, as he looked back to see his body, as he was flying towards Naruto, he was he was eaten up by Naruto's eyes. As Naruto looked, what just happened? He said, now looking at the dead villager. Thinking that the villager had passed out from by his gaze, he just walked on. Unknowing to him, multiple other civilians had saw the sight. They saw the Kyuubi staring down at the man, as the man seemingly had fear in his eyes. But this was a look. No, the man seemed to have joy within his eyes as he looked up towards Naruto. All they could hear was him saying, "God, what, Kami." As they all, after seeing the events of that day, everyone began to believe that the man had floated up towards a better life. And instead of hating Naruto, they showed him with deep respect. After that day, they began to, people began to pile up at Naruto's door, asking for him to cleanse their soul, asking for them to cleanse them, asking for him to cleanse them, which Naruto didn't know what they meant, so he just shrugged them off and went on his merry way. council room. Are you saying that another villager has ended up dead? Dunzo said, looking towards the Hokage. As he was saying this, almost as if he was helping, as if he was trying to help the civilians' council. As they then said, he said, what do you think that the demon is doing to these people? As then the civilian side of the council began to rile up against Danzo. You mean, you mean the great Lord Kyubi? They said towards Danzo. As they said, that boy is our savior. And that man did not die. He was cleansed. His soul was brought to the afterlife, to his greatest, as they said, to his greatest life. He is living out there with his woman, his lover. As then Danzo looked in shock. He thought that the civilian side of the council were going to take his side like usual. But it seemed that the demon brat was taking control of their minds or something. Or that's what he thought. As he then began to think, this guy, the demon brat, is getting more and more dangerous. I must recruit him before he isn't a valuable weapon anymore, he said. As Danzo looked shooketh, he thought that the civilian council would take his side. As Hiruzen was shooketh himself, what the hell did you do, Naruto? The third Hokage thought, as himself couldn't get the civilian council to listen for him for anything, yet Naruto was doing it so easily. With that very thing and thought in mind, he knew that Naruto would be a great Hokage. Back to Naruto. Naruto stood in the field as he began to try and harness that overwhelming power that he felt earlier. That's animating. That overwhelming power that he had felt earlier. Basically. As he looked forward. As he stared at a tree, then his eyes began to glow. He was focusing on pushing all of that overwhelming power into his eyes. As his eyes began to glow, they shimmered a silver color. As it seemed as if power began to burst out of them. As his eye, it was normal, but it had turned silver as he looked at a tree. No, I mean gold. As he looked at a tree, the tree began to crumble, but it was crumbling gracefully. As multiple villagers looked at the event, they could see through the barrier, but it was just like they couldn't go through it. So they looked at this as they saw it. It's incredible, they said. Lord Kyubi is returning the tree back to the greatest form of itself as the tree began to wither. It was an elderly tree. As out of the dust which the wind blew away, he saw it, a sapling right there, as Naruto smiled. With the villagers' delusions, thinking that Naruto was God and all, they believed his smile of basically just him like, yes, I've done it, to be, it's so graceful. It's, it's incredible. I think I'm gonna come. Goddamn funny. No cap. I'm fucking jokes. I'm fucking funny as shit. So yeah. Basically, they looked at his graceful smile. He had brought this elder tree back to its radiant form. Naruto also had logs within his yard as he disappeared, slamming his hand against one of the logs as he punched with a technique which was different. He had created his own style, which he named very appropriately. the the fist of the Reaper, and he had also had another style, which was called the Fist of Creation, which made him seem even more elegant and like a grand force. He was currently using the Fist of the Reaper, which in the style he was moving smoothly, but his attacks resembled something of a scythe coming down on opponents, slicing them limb from limb, cutting off ligaments, and all of that good stuff. I gotta at least hit 34 minutes. So yeah. As even though it was terrible, he was doing grand. As this was not actually a fist style, this was the Kenjutsu style. The same with the basically Fist of Creation. As he slammed it down, this was a wooden sword. As it hit the basically log, it began to slightly cut the log, even though it was wood. So he had decided to basically getting a stone, like basically a stone thing instead of like wooden log. So this kind of looked like a wooden log, but it was actually stone, which will say something about his power. Even though he was basically a young guy, plus he wasn't using his power fully, like he wasn't using it to enhance basically his physical strength. He was using it to basically make a new dojutsu, which will be called the Eyes of Repent. Well, that's what everyone else calls him, because his graceful eyes were basically gold, the color of what they considered to be God, or what they assumed God's color to be, as it was great. It was basically, imagine, like, even if Naruto was literally slicing niggas in half, they wouldn't care. They was like, oh, he's so graceful and cool. He's like a god. So, like, it's pretty much a me. It looked pretty, it was like that graceful. To the point where even if you was killing niggas, everybody would stop and look. They would be like, shit, this nigga looking cool, fresh as shit. So yeah, as he, as the blade was almost slicing through it, then he did the blade's first form, which was called the Finger of Death. Now, y'all know how y'all, like, y'all don't imagine the Grim Reaper basically using his scythe to kill people. That's just as the core. So this basically finger, once you pointing at niggas, you feel it. You feel your death coming. You like, he basically comes in with creepily, but with elegance, basically, as he pokes through his opponents. Then slicing down and doing all that is basically scythe. There's movement of the scythe. As he smirked, he was getting stronger. Just as yeah, pretty much. I forgot what I was saying because my brother. I was interacting with my brother. So yeah. Naruto basically looked towards this log. We then skip around 3 years later to when Naruto is 8 and is about to join the academy. No, we skip 2 years later to when Naruto is 7 and he's joining the academy. Naruto's grades are the grandest within the class. 1 year later. This will be the first chance to become a Genin. Every year, you will get a chance to become a Genin. If you do become a Genin, you become a Genin. And if you don't, then you don't become a Genin. So yeah. Within this year, the protege princess of the Hyuga clan, Hinata Hyuga, who was the star of her class. Her graceful elegantness and shyness made all of the boys run after her. And the prince of the class, the princes of the class, no, as the girls called them, two people, Sasuke Uchiha, the cold emo, but he was nice to interact with, and the radiant star of the class, Naruto Uzumaki, who acted quite nice towards everyone. If y'all don't know, I'm basically setting this up to where that's the team. And they're all going to roll, with Hinata being directly after Naruto in terms of power, with her getting perfect scores on everything. No, each and every one of them get perfect scores, but it's up to who does the best on like the for the year, and that's Naruto. So it's Naruto, then Hinata, then Sasuke. So yeah, Naruto is deemed the rookie of the year. Yeah. Let's begin the graduation test. If you were able to pass, you will become a guinea. And that's gonna be in this video. Make sure that y'all like, subscribe, and give this bitch a big fat suckamo. This will be the only video that I will be posting ever until like later. Bye.